Everyone's excited for the first Descendant. The final technical test is coming soon, and a lot of people are wondering which Descendants to play. Here's an intro to all 11 playable Descendants inside of the first Descendant. FREYNA is a damage over time dealer. We're going to work around her passive skill. Damage increases whenever attacking enemies that are poisoned. You want to keep your poisoned uptime all the time. Our first active skill, Toxic Trauma, Poison Bullet. This inflicts Room Zero Trauma. Room Zero Trauma is an effect that FREYNA has. What it does is it poisons all the enemies in the space and increases physical attack damage, depending on your build. Yes, Room Zero Trauma and Unauthorized Bullet both do stack. Next up, we have Defense Mechanism. Despite its misleading name, it is a poison armor. So yes, you increase your defense significantly, but whenever it says there is a chance of inflicting Room Zero Trauma to enemies upon attack, this chance, it is a high chance, and it's almost guaranteed due to how many ticks of damage you will be attacking. It is a very good skill. Don't look at its wording as ineffective. Decomposed Poison, you make a poison swamp on an enemy, and whenever enemies are rushing you or running around, other enemies that step in their poison footprints also become poisoned. Whenever you poison an enemy with FREYNA, it does do damage over time. This is FREYNA's ultimate. This is also misleading words. It switches the gun to Dead Room. Dead Room is just a special weapon that FREYNA has. You switch your weapon to a poison rifle, and it automatically inflicts all enemies that you hit with Room Zero Trauma. Due to FREYNA being a damage over time dealer, you have to look at her damage as consistency, not burst damage. Although the individual ticks will not be that high, she is a very high DPS class in the game. Something very important to keep in mind with these kind of skills, these skills typically scale off of the gun that you are holding. Nothing changed from the beta last time. If you have a heavy weapon, what you should do is switch to your heavy weapon and then activate Venomous Baptism. You will get the most out of your damage that way. Don't use your weakest weapon for your ultimate skill. I realize that that is counterintuitive to a lot of video games. We're entering a new era of video games. Next up, we have Lepic, your basic soldier of the game. Your grenades, things of that nature. Whenever you are getting fatal damage into battle, there is a chance that you just don't die. This is his passive skill, Close Call. He has a grenade. It is a grenade. So then we have Overclock, a buff, and what this does is increase your skill attack. It also adds an additional effect to your grenade. If your Overclock is not on cooldown, you should use Overclock before throwing grenades. This is another grenade. It's important to note that although Overclock works, it should not work with Traction Grenade because it's not grenade. This is an important distinction that you should think about. Now you have Overkill. This is his ultimate as well. What this is, you're firing an artillery round, which explodes and deals damage over time. Make sure you activate Overclock before activating your ultimate for maximum damage. Next, we have AJAX. He's a tank. This has the ability to store void energy during battle. There are 3 stages to this. You get progress to store void energy whenever you cast skills. There's 3 stacks. At 100%, you maximize the stack. This depletes when you're out of combat for 10 seconds, and this helps the cooldown of your skills, depending on your build. We have Orbit Barrier, the Titan Barricade from Destiny if you played Destiny. The durability of it scales based off your HP and defense. If you build for a tank, you will act like a tank. You can shoot through this barrier and it reflects damage. Void Walk. Void Walk is a Hulk slam. You jump, you slam on the ground, smash the ground, create a shockwave. Expulsion. Create a shockwave on the ground. Then we have the Hypercube, his ultimate. This is a bubble. Whenever you activate the bubble, if this is enhanced by Void Walk, you increase the amount of damage coming out even more, and it reflects damage proportional to your defense whenever you use it. Up next, we have Viessa. You start with the passive skill, Ice Sphere. So Ice Sphere is the floating little orbs inside of her intro. These skills sometimes inflict a status effect called Ice Shackle. Whenever you inflict the status effect Ice Shackle, you get an Ice Sphere, which float around you. They seek out enemies and they deal damage in an AoE area. Frost Shards. This is an ice beam that explodes. Up next, we have Frost Road. Frost Road is a buffing skill. It creates little ice puddles as you walk around the stage, and enemies that walk into them are inflicted with Ice Shackle. It increases your running speed quite substantially and gives you a shield. Now we have Ice Wave. This is exactly what it sounds like. It just creates a wave of ice in front of you and inflicts damage in Ice Shackle. Whenever you have Ice Shackle effect at the max, this is when you should activate Cold Snap for maximum damage. This just creates a snowstorm in the area. It is a big AoE. We'll go over how Ice Shackle actually works. Ice Shackle is an AoE damage effect, and what it does is it slows down your enemies. The more stacks of Ice Shackle you have, the more slowing effect you get. We have Jayber. This guy's all about turret, which you can tell with his passive skill, Turret Sync. Your attack increases when Assault Turret and Medical Turret are both summoned. One of the best builds you can do for him is a cooldown build, so you can always have your Assault and your Medical Turret activated. Your Assault Turret just automatically attacks. Something you should know when you're building Jayber: do not build for turret range. It does not increase the range of your turret, it only increases the summoning range, so don't waste your resources on the range of your turret. Medical Turret, it is what it sounds like. It restores health and an AoE to everyone around the medical turret. If it's enhanced by a certain skill or anything else, it does restore mana as well. Multi-purpose gun is a way to enhance the turrets. You have to shoot your turrets with your multi-purpose gun to enhance them. Then we have Reactivate. You recall all of your turrets. Whenever you cast a skill, all of your turrets are recalled and they explode, dealing damage to everything around them. After using Total Recall, you enter an Overhaul state. The Overhaul state gives your turrets buffs whenever you cast them. The way to play him would be to summon Assault and Medical Turret down at the same time, enhance them, explode the enemies, and then resummon your turrets. In the last beta, we couldn't find anything that increased the damage range of the turrets. If you find something in this final technical test, leave a comment. Now we have SHAREN. SHAREN is the assassin of the game. Her passive skill, Assassinator, increases your damage attacking an enemy that isn't attacking you. So if an enemy is attacking your allies, that's the best time to attack that enemy with SHAREN. You have the Cutoff Beam. This is just a slash. It says Cutoff Beam, but it's more a beam blade, and you're just swinging a sword. It does a lot of damage and electrocutes them. Active Camouflage, it's exactly as it sounds. You become invisible, and this provides extra damage to your next attack. What you want to do is become invisible, find a strong enemy that's not attacking you and attacking one of your allies, and then use Cutoff Beam against that enemy. It will massively increase the amount of damage. Built-in ARM rocket launcher, it shoots little rocket pods and stuns enemies. Stun effect in this game prevents the enemy from moving or performing any actions. Flash Short Sword. Now this has an auto-targeting system and it throws many knives and attacks all of them. Active Camouflaging and Short Swording does work and is very effective. SHAREN can deal a lot of damage if you use her correctly. Up next, we have the most game-breaking character in the entire game, GLEY. What did happen to her daughter? Whenever you defeat enemies, they drop life spheres. Go and collect these spheres. They heal you and add a stack of power, but you don't always necessarily want to be healed. Her first skill, Frenzied, consume a little sliver of HP to enter a Berserk mode. In Berserk mode, your weapon's attack and penetration increase dramatically. Now I have Life Siphon. It deals damage to nearby enemies and restores your HP. You don't always want your HP restored though. Increased Sensory. The increased Sensory creates an area with a special effect. While you're in Berserk mode, bullets are not consumed within the area. An important distinction is that rockets are not bullets. Your rocket launcher here ain't gonna work. Then you have Massacre. Switches your gun to Nosferatu, which does scale off the gun that you're holding. In Berserk mode, your skill damage increases. Play here is to activate Frenzy to go into Berserk mode, and then activate Increased Sensory, bullets are not consumed, and then activate Massacre, have unlimited ultimate rounds. We have the Wizard. BLAIR. Damage over time dealer, very similar to FREYNA, except he's fire. You're trading out poison damage for burn damage. All of your damage increases whenever there's more enemies burned and whenever you have more stoves on the battlefield. You have Blaze Up. This creates a stove, which is a damage over time bubble on the ground. Then you have Extinguish. This retrieves all of the stoves in the battlefield and restores your mana, increasing your defense based off of how many stoves you got. This is a flamethrower effect. Enemies near the flame's arrival point are caught on fire. Burn Taste is a flamethrower. Enemies near the flames, whenever you cast it, are just automatically caught on fire, as well as every enemy that you hit with the flame itself. Deadly Cuisine. It's a fireball. Whenever the fireball explodes, it creates smaller fireballs that also explode. This creates a lot of stoves on the ground, and the stoves deal constant damage to nearby enemies. The strat here is just to Blaze Up and Burn Taste until your ultimate is activated, then activate your ultimate, and when you run out of mana, cast Extinguish. You'll be seeing a lot of bunnies roaming around. Hopefully one of the millions of people playing bunny will watch this video. So her role is the nuker. She runs around, collects energy, and then bursts it all at once. Her passive skill, Rabbit Foot. The more you move, the more electric charges you get, and then double jumping with electric charges deals damage to the nearby enemies, hence the name Bunny. First we have Throw Bomb. This summons an electric orb. It attacks nearby enemies and inflicts them with electrocute attack. Now we have light speed. You want to run around, get a whole bunch of electricity, and then activate light speeding, which will increase the effect of all of the electric charges that you gained. And while light speeding is active, the damage that you do jumping up and down like a bunny is increased. Activating lightning emission is the electric pulse that you see. This is a pulse effect, is you want to activate all of these after you stack the effects and then run around in circles into the enemy. After you acquire all of your stacks, that is when you should activate maximum power, a unibeam from Iron Man. You want to run around shooting enemies whilst activating your electric orb, collecting stacks, and when you activate lightning emission, it does increase the amount of stacks that you gain. The strat with Bunny before you activate her ultimate is to activate lightning emission, run around in circles around the boss, attacking the boss with your AoE lightning pulse. Spin them all on maximum power. Valby, everyone's favorite bubble girl. So her passive is just her skills become nearly free whenever you're standing in water. So Bubble Bullet will create a bullet in front of you. Enemies in it take continuous damage, and then the strat is to go stand in the puddle, so all of your other skills are nearly free. Although Valby is an AoE damage dealer, I actually think she should be labeled as a debuffer. Whenever an enemy stands in a puddle of water, they are afflicted with laundry. Laundry is just a debuff on your enemies. It makes things do more damage. The plop plop is a teleport ability. You dive in a puddle of water and you teleport out the other side. Laundry, skate around the map. You can use this to attack enemies and get to objectives faster than most other Descendants because it lets you move through enemies. It creates a path of water which inflicts enemies with laundry. Her ultimate is Laundry Bomb. This will shoot out a giant bubble of water, pulling enemies into it and afflicting them with laundry and dealing continuous overtime damage. Valby is pretty straightforward. The strat here would be to activate Laundry, inflict every enemy with Laundry, stand in a puddle of water, and activate your other skills. And then if there's a large group of enemies, that's when you want to activate Laundry Bomb. It pulls them all together and gives your allies an advantage to attack all of the enemies that have been piled on top of each other. Kyle is another tank. This is just a shoulder charge. Magnetic Bulwark is similar to AJAX's shield, but the only difference is Magnetic Bulwark doesn't just stay in place, like you don't drop it. Magnetism Spurt. So Kyle has a magnetism gauge, and you can activate Magnetism Spurt, which makes you take damage in your magnetism gauge instead of your HP and shields. If you find yourself in a tough spot, you can use Magnetism Spurt. Superconductivity Thrusters. You fly, slam the ground, and explode, dealing an AoE, a burst attack, and you get bonus damage based off of your magnetism. Now the passive skill, you gain magnetic force with your skills. Whenever you cast your skills, you gain magnetism, and when your shield gets broken, you recover your shield and your magnetic force at the same time. Kyle is a pretty simple character to use, although the skill ceiling is relatively high. If you find yourself in a tough spot, activate Magnetic Bulwark. The Magnetic Bulwark will increase your magnetism when it takes damage, and then when the enemies are too close to you, you shoulder charge them, dealing damage and increasing your magnetism, and then activate Superconductivity Thrusters when there's a large group of enemies, preferably after they all get grouped together by someone else's Valby AoE attacks. And that is an intro into the 11 characters that you will be able to play in the upcoming beta. It seemed like they were giving everyone access to all of the characters this time due to it only being a 2-day beta.